Maybe start with the portal stuff. I mean, it's been a couple years now since that's been going on. What,
Yeah.
what have you and your staff kind of learned from how to navigate that element of recruiting?
Yeah, I think it's, there's 4,000 plus names in the portal. Yeah, it's just you kind of sift through the information. There's a lot of moving parts by all parties involved. The student athletes, they're getting bombarded with calls from all kinds of different coaches, different parts of the country, different programs. They're having to navigate through that as well. We've got to narrow it down to guys that we feel like we want to bring on campus. We're talking about, you're looking at their stats, you're looking at their video, you're talking to their coaches, talking to their high school coaches. Trying to, again, when it comes to the transfers, you're looking for guys that are running to something. That's, for us at least, want a different opportunity, maybe moving up in the ranks a little bit in terms of getting to a Power 5 conference, those type of things. So maybe it's a guy that we've had a relationship with in the past. So lot to navigate. I got a really hard-working staff that's on top of it.
Obviously some exciting draft news. What's that mean to you to see those guys have that moment and enter the program?
Yeah, no, it's huge. I mean, just to see, kind of knowing their stories too, their background. The three guys that went inside the top 5 rounds. I mean, not super highly recruited out of high school. Those guys, just came in. They worked hard. They did everything we asked them to do. And to just be able to be part of their journey has been pretty awesome. And to see them grow as young men has been pretty awesome to see. And just really, I don't know, just having those these experiences that these guys get to have, it gives me a lot of pride as a coach to be able to see those guys fulfill their dreams, basically, getting their name called in the draft, and there's going to be some millionaires in the group as well.
What does that do? I mean, when you are recruiting and you're talking to prospects, I mean, that's got to be a nice selling point, right? Just to show how some of these other guys have developed.
It is, and that's the name of the game. Period is recruitment and development. But at a place like Nebraska, where we've got some, the part of the country that we're in, you've got to really be key on the development piece of it. So yeah, I mean, I think just being able to look at a guy that was a recruited walk-on that turned into a 4th rounder on the mound, and a couple of guys that, in the middle infield that were top 2 rounders. I mean, they weren't drafted, none of them out of high school. And Jace Kaminska, I think, really raised his profile here as well. So it says a lot, that we can do what we need to do from a development standpoint. And the more we can get guys in here that are high draft picks. I mean, you see the best teams in the country. It's not 3 or 4 guys drafted. It's 8 to 10 to 12 guys drafted. So that's kind of where we want to get, right? So you need that top-end talent, but you also need maybe your 6-hole hitter to be a high draft pick as well.
Personally, you have to be very excited that Bryce went to the Astros.
Yeah, that was, for him, first and foremost for him, his family, they trusted us. They sent him 12 hours, 13 hours away from home to come to Nebraska, and for everything to kind of come full circle for them. What an amazing family, what an amazing young man. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool having those conversations with the Astros, knowing since I was a little kid, that was kind of my favorite team and still is. And to have those conversations about a guy that played shortstop here at Nebraska, is being able to see him get to the big leagues for my favorite team, that's pretty cool. But for him, it's awesome just in terms of being from that area, his parents getting a chance to see him kind of go through the ranks as he gets into Double and Triple A. It's down in Texas. They'll get to see him play a lot, and when he makes it to the big leagues, be pretty special.
Is it at all bittersweet knowing that the team's success with those guys wasn't quite what you guys had been hoping for?
Well, yeah. I mean, like I said, after the last game of the year, there's one team that's happy when the season ends. It's LSU. They were the happy team when the season ended. Everybody else is in the same boat. And, whether you finish 2nd or 65th, I mean, obviously our goals are to host a regional and go to the College World Series. I've said that time and time and time again. So, yeah, I mean, it's disappointing when you don't reach that goal for sure. But like I said, I mean, it's so much, there's so much more that goes into it, and it's a very fine line, 4 or 5 games, and we need to get to that point where we can win those games, and absolutely, it's you get to a regional as a 3 seed and you go 0-2. Are you any happier than I don't know. I don't really think so. But when you have a chance to be a championship level ball club like we were in 21, that's a little bit different, and that gives you an opportunity to host a regional.
You guys effectively made 2 staffing changes
Yep.
in the offseason. Can you describe, I guess, why from a baseball standpoint
Yep.
you made those decisions and how hard that was personally to make those decisions?
Yeah, I mean, incredibly, the conversations having, had there were very difficult. I have the utmost respect for all those guys, and not just respect from a baseball side of it, but a personal side of it as well, and not just respect, but love and admiration as well. So, yeah, again, when you talk about, the where you need to go as a program, and when I was hired, I said, I want to get us back to Omaha. I want to have a chance to go back to the College World Series, and looking at all those things, all encompassing, it's player acquisition nowadays. I mean, that's what it boils down to. Can we get to the point where we have 8 to 10 guys drafted in a year? Because that's what the big boys are doing, and it's college baseball is far more talented than it was 4 years ago, than it was 3 years ago, than it was 2 years ago. So it's our job to keep up with that, So a lot of really, really positive things going on. I'm really excited about the staff that we have in place, and their ability, honestly, their track record in terms of player acquisition is pretty significant, and player development is pretty significant as well. So yeah, really excited about the future and where it's going.
With the pitching specifically, what would you like to see different or better moving forward?
Well, I alluded to it a little bit. I mean, you look at the midweek games. That's what held us back this year. We were good on the weekends with our top end talent, kind of was able to shine through, but the midweek games is what held us back. And so it comes down to depth. It comes down to, like I said, you have the top end talent that can have, the high draft picks, but can you have some guys that are waiting in the wings, that are pitching on Tuesday for you, that's starting, that you can pencil them in for 5 or 6 innings because they're that good, they're that ready to go help you. And then can you rest some guys at times in the midweek? And I'm not saying that you're going to rest your superstars in midweek, because you're not going to do that. They're going to continue to play, but can you plug some guys in to give them some opportunities to maybe find some guys that can help you, down the stretch if it comes down to that. So that's where we need to be better. We need to be better in the midweek games. And, again, that comes from depth of roster. That comes from the ability to put together and manage the pitching staff to a certain degree to where you can do that. And you're maybe not just drawing names out of a hat, which it seems like we were doing a little bit on some of the Tuesday games. It's like, who's going to start, who's going to come out of the pen. If Shanneman's burned from the weekend, who's going to close games for us? So we've got to have the ability to have multiple guys that can step up and play those roles for us.
Well, why do you think that the talent in college baseball is better this year or currently
Yeah.
than it has been in previous years? Is there a driving force behind that, do you think?
COVID was the driving force. I think that put everything kind of in motion. 2020, the shortened season, it was a 5-round draft that year. So more really good players from high school are in college baseball now because of that. Then you look at the draft, went from 50 to 40, now 20 rounds. So a lot more players are choosing college, and it's just that's kind of the byproduct of it. Obviously, you've seen the average age of college baseball has gone up because of the extra year of eligibility. So you've got older, bigger, stronger guys playing college baseball now. You're seeing more high-level prospects that maybe would have had a chance to sign out of high school that are coming to college now. And I think that's a trend that's going to continue. You'll see, obviously, the COVID year is going to go away. I mean, those guys are going to be done after this year. But I think you're still going to continue to see a lot more high-end talent come to college with the 20-round draft. And the way that the teams and the Power 5 conferences like us at Nebraska can develop players.
Generally speaking, with this group of incoming players, what do you like about them? What needs maybe do they address?
Well, we've addressed some depth in the bullpen on the pitching staff. I think we've added some. Again, you're never going to replace 40 home runs in the middle infield. That's not really what we're trying to do. What we're trying to do is just, like I said, 1 through 9 in the order. We took a significant step in the right direction last year. I mean, we set a school record for home runs. That was maybe a little bit unexpected, and it wasn't just those 2 guys. We had some other guys really step up. Gabe Swanson, our 9-hole hitters hitting 300. That's what you've got to have. So I think we've addressed some of that, getting some left-handed bats in there, continue to get some experienced bats. But more than anything, just that depth on the mound is really where it shines through.
You hit on some of the points, I think, in a previous answer, but with Coach Sirianni in particular, what jumped out that just made that the fit right now for this moment?
Well, he's a grinder, and he fits exactly the personality of our coaching staff as a whole, kind of what I'm looking for as a whole, the University of Nebraska as a whole. He's been a guy that you ask, who one of the better recruiters is in the entire region. His name's going to come up over and over and over again. And not only that, but when he was at Wichita State, he wore a lot of different hats. I mean, he was coaching third, running the offense, coaching hitters, he was writing practice plans. I mean, he was doing a lot of things, and he was a head coach as well at a lower division level. So he brings a lot of experience. He's got a lot of energy. He's a guy that, again, when you start talking about putting together a staff, you got an all-star crew of guys that can acquire players. And that's, like I said, that's where we've got to get to in terms of player acquisition, continue to develop those players, and not only have the top-end guys, but to have a roster full of really, really talented players.
Obviously, your lineup is going to be full of JUCO guys. Obviously different from freshmen, because freshmen are kind of like a blank canvas.
Yeah.
What do you have to do with these JUCO guys to kind of mold them into what you want them to be in the lineup?
Yeah, you don't take those guys and feel like you're going to change them. That would be silly for us to take an experienced hitter and say, okay, we see what you're doing, but we're going to completely change everything. We just put them in positions to be around more good players. That's really the iron sharpens iron type mentality there. Their game is going to improve by virtue of being around a lot of really good players. Put them in a certain drill set that works to hit high-level pitching, that hits velocity, that can drive the ball, that can drive in runs. I think you put them in those scenarios and those situations, and they kind of organically get better because of that. And again, I think just as a staff, like I alluded to before, we really have had a lot of success with the guys that were lightly recruited or maybe went to junior college, maybe they went to a lower division level, because they got a chip on their shoulder. They love to play baseball. You have to love baseball to go to junior college and play it. We've all coached there before. And you don't get everything handed to you. So excited about, again, I think that formula stays very similar, right? Like older hitters, develop the pitching. That's the point that we need to make sure that we're at with our program, is that we're able to do that.
What's kind of your early assessment of what the infield could look like next year?
A lot of moving parts there, right? Obviously you have a couple of returners there. We had couple guys that are coming off season-ending injuries that you didn't get to see last year, in Hughes and Brumbaugh. Those two guys would have factored in pretty heavily for our team last year had they been healthy. And then you've got some guys that we've brought in. So a lot of moving parts there. No spots have been secured at this point. And again, that's the way we like it, that competition. So feel pretty confident in our ability to develop high-level infielders. So taking some of those guys and putting them in position to succeed, we look forward to that.
How are you guys doing this summer? I know you have players that are all across the country playing in different summer leagues.
Yeah, no, they're from all the way Alaska to Texas to the East Coast. They're off getting better, and so have a couple of guys that have been a little bit nicked up this summer that have been slowed with some minor stuff. We got some young guys that have gone off and done well. We got some of our junior college guys that have gone off and done well against good pitching, and we've had some high school kids, much like Dylan Carey did last year, that are off playing in college summer leagues that are really holding their own and been very impressive that way. So, excited about the development that they're getting. That's why college baseball is a little unique, right? Like, we don't get our hands on our guys in the summer, so we're given a lot of opportunities to grow elsewhere with summer baseball, and that's really important to us.
Who are some specific guys that you're seeing pop off in the summer league, and what do you see in their game that's really improved?
Well, I think Brett Sears is probably the first one that comes to mind. I mean, looking back at his, we thought he was going to be kind of a late in the bullpen type guy. It was a role that he was obviously not real comfortable in, and you don't know that until you kind of see it in live action. And probably in hindsight would have given him more chances to the front end of games. But he's started this summer, and he had 5 or 6 starts, and he was equally as impressive for each one of them. He's certainly one that you feel like it, and he's going to be 24 years old, I think, next spring. So he's got the experience piece of it as well. So he's done a great job. There's been some freshmen that have gone off. Max Budenbeck, a local kid, is playing down in Hutchinson this summer. He's opened some eyes with what he's doing. You start looking at those guys, are they controlling the strike zone facing college pitching for the first time? He's got more walks than strikeouts. Case Sanderson's another one that's off playing in the prospect league that's hitting about 350, controlling the strike zone. They're hitting him in the 3 and 4 hole. That's kind of what I'm looking at with the box scores is where are our guys hitting in the lineup? You know, the lineup in Columbus has gotten better this summer, doing a very nice job down in Texas. So there's a lot of them that have gone off, and some of our JUCO guys have gotten better too.
Can you kind of lay out what the conversation was like with Kyle Perry about his decision to come back for his 6th year?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, you look at it, it's like 6 years. Wow, he's played a lot of baseball. He hasn't played much baseball. You know, I think that's what kind of keeps that itch ready to be scratched for him, is that you look back in his career, 2019 was probably really the only real season he's ever had. And that was a long time ago. You know, 20, everybody's year got cut short. 21, he pitches the very end of the year. 22, he only pitches the very beginning of the year. And he had a full season this year, but still coming off two injuries is tough. So what we need more than anything from Kyle Perry is to be a great example for Husker baseball. And he's always been an awesome teammate. But when you're a 6-year player, the eyes are on you. And so making sure that everything he does every single day is the Husker baseball is at the front of his mind, and being a great example for the young players, that's what I'm excited to see from him.
Thanks, Coach.
Yep, you bet.
Thanks,